Hi everyone, welcome to my session, Yippee-ki-yay, let's build a die-hard quiz power app using Copilot. This session is part of the Festive Tech Calendar 2024, and if you go ahead and go to festivetechcalendar.com, you'll learn more about the events, the other speakers and the other sessions as well. So I'll scroll further down. We can actually see the full agenda right here. And if you go further up, you'll notice as well that we're raising money this year for the Beats and Cancer charity. So if you are in a position to donate, any donation is very gratefully received. Just go ahead and click on the Just Giving page, and that's where you can make a donation. A bit about me. My name is Keith Atherton. I'm a Power Platform Solution Architect, and I get up to some of the community shenanigans now and again as well. If you'd like to follow me, go ahead and scan that QR code or search for me on LinkedIn, Twitter or Blue Sky. Okay, so as you could probably tell from the session title, we'll be looking at Power Apps today. Now a bit about Power Apps, it's part of the Power Platform. So for those maybe not too familiar with that, I'll give a quick introduction about the platform itself. So from the Microsoft page we can see right here for the Power Platform, they do mention to accelerate innovation and it can cut costs and development time with low-code tools. I'd probably say this is the key takeaway. The Power Platform is a series of low-code tools that can speed up development. You can build things very, very quickly with it as well. Some people liken it to using something like Lego blocks, where you can piece things together, at least to a certain extent, to build things very quickly. So to look at the different products as part of the platform, let's scroll down here. So the different services that we've got available are Microsoft Power BI. This is where you can create things like reports and dashboards and visuals to display the data. Then Microsoft Power Apps, which by the name as you can tell are apps, and they're really web apps essentially because they run in the browser. We'll be looking at that a bit more today. Microsoft Power Automate, these can automate things behind the scenes, whether it be immediately by clicking a button on a schedule or triggered by an automatic event, say a file was being received or an email gets received, for example. And these can do different things, moving files around or creating notifications or sending emails, things like that. Next up, we've got Power Pages. This is really good for externally facing websites. And Copilot Studio as well, and this is where you can create your own custom copilots. So there are many parts of the system, but today we're going to look at Microsoft Power Apps. Now the place we need to go is make.powerapps.com, and when you go there it will likely prompt you to sign in, and if you don't have a license or an account already, it might ask you to register and sign up, potentially to a free trial. Although there may be a good chance that the organization that you work for may have a license, so you may have access to this, and this is known as the Power Apps Maker Portal. Now if you don't have access to this or you've used up your free trial, there is another option as well. So if you search online, we've got the Power Apps Developer Plan, which is very, very useful. If I go ahead and scroll down a bit here, we can see there's a mention here where we can compare the Power Apps Plan Trial and the Power Apps Developer Plan. And there are two options here. So the first one we'll look at is this Power Apps Plan Trial. Now this is really where you can sign up for a trial for 30 days and you can use some of the features. Really, really useful. The other option we have is a Power Apps Developer Plan. This is something I use and I've used for a long time. The great thing with this is it includes Power Apps, Dataverse and Power Automate, but crucially there's no time limit. It's not a 30 days and it's done. You can just keep using it and using it. So really, really useful. I use it for learning and development as well. It's really good. They do mention as well in the terms that this is for development and test use only. The intention really is if you want to put anything in production, that's when you go ahead and sign up to an account. But anyway, we'll go back to the Power Apps Maker Portal right here. So there are many ways we can build an app. We can do this manually. We can go ahead and do create and do a blank app from there. Or let's say if we've got a data source already, let's say if we're using SharePoint or SQL or something else, or even Dataverse, we can actually create the app based on that data model. So it's a really good starting point if all you're going to do is put, a straightforward app UI around that data model and you want to interact with it. The other really cool option is, if I go back to home right here, is we can build an app using this Copilot right here. So you can see the description, use everyday words to describe what your app should collect, track, list or manage. And there are some samples up here. So if you really just want to play with this and start experimenting, you can actually go up here and say, okay, collect RSVPs or manage inspections, whatever the case may be. Really, really good. But the one I actually want to try for today is creating a Die Hard quiz app. Now, some people might argue, is Die Hard a Christmas film? Is it a film that's just based at Christmas? I'll leave that up to you. I think we all know the answer to that one. Anyway, moving on. So I'm going to go ahead and put in here, please, I'm going to be polite just to see if that greases the wheels. So let's say, please create a Die Hard quiz app. Now hopefully from this it will see that I want it to create an app. Hopefully it'll understand that Die Hard is a film and do the appropriate research, and that it's going to be a quiz as well. So I want some questions and answers in here. I've not gone super descriptive. Many of us using ChatGPT or Copilot or something else knows there are many ways where you can say, I want to set the context, give some examples, and kind of beef this up and give it a bit more info. However, I'm just going to try from this really brief one and see if it can figure out what we need. I'll go ahead and click on Go. Okay, it looks like it's created a data model for us. So this will be the starting point. It's going to come up with a data model, and then step 2 will be creating the app based on this data model. But everything is going from the data up. So right here, it's created some new tables, question and category. We can see if I zoom in a bit here, it's even got the relationship between them as well. So one category may have multiple questions. Really, really useful. So let's go ahead and click on, let's move this up here, click on the question table. Now we get a few options up here. Let's go ahead and view data. Now the great thing with this, it's gone ahead and give us a question text, a correct answer, and the category, which we can see lightly linked to that category table right there. Let's go ahead and increase the width right there. So what is John McClane's profession rather? He's a police officer. Who's the main antagonist? Hans Gruber, so on and so on and so on. So we can actually see from the model, it's created these columns, it's given us some data as well. Not only that, we can see that this data is looking correct so far, and it's actually useful. It means we're going to be able to test the app after we've created it as well. Now we can see some of the categories right here, but let's go ahead and click on category and just look at the data for that one. Right, so we've got questions around character, plot and setting. Looking good so far. I'll go back to question. So I think everything's looking good so far. We can see what we can do here is actually add more rows if we need to. We can actually say, well, we want more columns as well if we want to just change this data model a little bit as well. And we've got some other options for row ownership properties too. The other good useful thing is actually the Copilot pane on the right hand side as well. So you can see there that command that we put in before, so okay, it's responded with, got it, before I make an app for that, I'll create tables. It's gone ahead and created these, and we can actually say if we want it to do something else. So let's say, okay, let's go ahead and do something like, no, let's start with the please. Please create 5 more rows for the question table. Say, I want a few more questions in there. Let's go ahead and see if it can figure out what we need. Okay, it's working away. There we go. Looks like it's added a few more rows. Let's go ahead and just, again, I'll just increase the width a bit there. Let's scroll further down. Okay, what's the main theme of the movie? Who helps John McClane? Yep, there's plenty going on. Oh, look at this. What holiday is the movie set during? That's interesting. Christmas. Fantastic. Okay, so we've got this on theme. It's on brand for the event as well. That's always a nice bonus. So we can see we can actually do a lot with this. Again, we do have the option to manually make the changes as well. I'll go ahead and click on this. We can access those features like we can up there. We can go ahead and do the new rows and columns that we mentioned, or we can ask Copilot to do the work for us. So I think we're in a good place. It's a very basic data model, 2 tables. We can get it to add more tables if we want, or actually go ahead and create the new tables here. Again, Copilot front and center, as we're seeing so far. We can go ahead and describe the new table. Let's say if we want to keep track of the players' scores, something like that, we can do that too. Or we can go ahead and actually add columns in data and actually manually build up that table. And the other options we've got is actually building it based on the data. So if we've got an Excel file or a CSV, then we could use those, or even a SharePoint list, and that's currently in preview. So that's also an option. Again, it will try and be smart and figure out the data model based on the format that we have in the files. However, for now, I think we're in a really good place with this data model. So we're going to go ahead and save this data model and create an app based on it. Now, if I expand this, we've got a couple of options. Now, previously, I've done a few sessions before where we've created a Canvas app. These are the 2 main types of Power Apps that we've got. The Canvas app, where we start with a blank canvas. Now, that's great because it means we can drag and drop controls anywhere we want to. We can actually fine tune it. It's almost like a pixel perfect way of building an app. The slight downside with that is that we've got to wire up and code everything ourselves because we start from the blank canvas. It also means that if we want something accessible, responsive and performant, we've also got to do the work of actually building that in as well. It's not just out of the box. However, with a model-driven app, we do get accessibility and responsiveness out of the box. The way these work is by the name. It actually bases the UI and automatically creates much of it automatically based on that data model. So it says, okay, I know what tables you're using, I know what columns you've got, so when I create grids to show that data, or I create forms with all the fields and text labels where you can actually edit records and create new records, it's actually going to do that based on the data model. So for this session, we're going to go ahead and do a model-driven app, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on Save and Open App. And this should take a few moments. We'll let this do its thing. Okay, it looks like we're ready. That actually took around 2 minutes or so for me, so not too long. The first prompt we get is to create a new model-driven app. We can give this a name, so I'll give this a name, Die Hard Quiz App. We can give it a description as well, but I think that's descriptive enough, so we'll go ahead and click on Create. It's now checking the tables, and hopefully it's going to build us this starting point for the app. Okay, there we go. That took less than a minute. That didn't take too long. We can see what we've got here is actually the model-driven app designer. So in this main pane, we can actually see a preview of what the app looks like. We'll go into this detail in a moment. On the left-hand side, we've got things like the pages for the navigation. We've got the data that we're access to. So if I expand the one for in your app, we can actually see it's gone ahead and created 2 tables, question and category. There are many other tables in the environment, many system created ones as well, but these are the 2 that we've got in use in the app. And also here we can choose to build some automation as well, but for now we're going to stick with a very straightforward app. So we're going to go back to pages. Now we can see within this main app preview we've got right here, on the left hand side, I should say as well, many model driven apps have a very similar look and feel. So we're going to get this bar across the top. On the left we're going to see some of the navigation, such as these tables right here. We can actually name this group. Group 1 has just been auto generated. We can actually change the name of that. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's just call this main. We've actually got access to the tables quite directly. We go across here, this is known as the command bar, so we've got many common things. We've not had to build this. This has been auto-generated, so I want to create a chart based on the data, create a new record, delete the record, and so on and so on. Then within the main app itself, we've got this grid. This is the very first thing that we see. Now when we click on these, you as we can probably guess, we'll actually then go to the record itself. So within this, we've actually got a drop down. We can see the active, if there were any inactive questions as well. These are known as views. And across here, we can actually, as a user, customize this display as well. So we can say, this is great, but I actually want to edit the columns or edit the filters to change the display, change what data we've got in this grid. On the right hand side, this is part of the designer again. So if I've got something selected, let's click on this right here, we can actually see different properties and things that we can change based on what we have selected right here. So if I go back to questions, now again, these are known as the views. That shows the grid with all of the rows. Now if we go to these forms, I'll go to the questions form first, we can see this is the form for that record. So question text, the owner, which is me because I'm the one signed in, the correct answer, and then the category as well. So let's go back to the questions view. I've not made any changes to the design of this app. I'm going to go ahead and publish this. It's actually going to save and publish for me. Shouldn't take too long. So the great thing with that is we can actually make development changes and keep hitting save all the way through. It's only when we want the end user to see those changes at the very end, we'll go ahead and click on publish, and that's when it'll be surfaced for the end user. So to actually just preview this actually from the designer, I'll go ahead and click on play. And now we're actually running the app for real. So all I've done really is use Copilot to build the data model. I didn't really tinker with it in any way, and click a button to say create app. Now we've got an app. We've got a fully functioning, workable app with grids and forms. So we can see all the data that we requested there. So we've got all the questions. What building does the movie take place in? There's the correct answer. And there's the category as well. That's to do with the setting. Okay, things here we may not want to see, like created on. Okay, let's go ahead and edit columns. Let's go ahead and get rid of created on. Apply the change, and there we go. So I'm just making, as an end user, a few changes to this app. What does Hans Gruber want? Money? Pretty much. So yeah, so far so straightforward. Now that I'm in the view, I can go ahead and click on this, and again this will give us that form view that we talked about. So I can actually change the data here. I can actually change any of this. I'll just add an exclamation there, go ahead and click on save, and that's me. I've saved the record. I can click on back to go back to the view, and we're good to go. I can also go ahead and create new records right here as well. I've got a new question, let's say, put the question text and the correct answer, and with a category, because that's the lookup, I can actually go right to the end here, and I can actually choose those options as well, or go ahead and create some new categories. Right, let's go back there. So there you have it. We've pretty much built an app very, very quickly, very easily, using Copilot as well. And if I go back to the designer, we can actually make further changes if we need to as well. Hope that's been useful. So we've reached the end. Thank you so much for checking out my session. It really means a lot. Again, do check out the other great sessions as part of the Festive Tech Calendar. And I hope that you and your family have a great festive season. Take care.